how does a presidential election affect the real estate market? You might be surprised. Stay tuned. How does the presidential election actually affect the real estate market? Well, you might actually be surprised. And today we're going to go into a deep dive in the data over several election cycles to kind of give you an idea of how a presidential election affects the real estate market. And you can imagine that most people have a doom and gloom view that a presidential election usually they think typically shakes up the market. Well, you know what? Presidential election years affect the national housing market and mortgage rates through their interrelated channels. And that would include uncertainty, policy expectations, and of course, consumer confidence. And in times of uncertainty, people want to follow and have that certainty. So if you have thoughts of who is going to win, you may have thoughts of in relation to the policy of and how favorable is the candidate's policy in line with your views. So, do people feel the economy is moving in the right direction? These are all questions and thoughts, and it's normal that most people have during a presidential election. So, it's quite normal for people to think that the actual presidential election is going to shake up the market. Let's go into the data. So, if you go back in election cycles, there's always something that gives us angst. And so 2008, it was the global recession. 2012, it's major healthcare expansion review by the Supreme Court. 2016, remember we had Brexit. 2020, of course, there was the global pandemic. And of course, 2024 with your wars and high inflation. So all these things affect whether or not people want to buy or sell a home. Now, people have an opinion about all of this. So let's actually break it down again with real data from the last several cycles. So first, Ali Wolf said usually home sales are unchanged compared to a non-election year, with the exception being November. And in an election year, November is slower than usual. So what does that actually mean? Well, it means what people usually and essentially do is that they put their hands in the pocket and usually say, you know what, I'm going to wait and see how things go. And then I'll make a decision after that. But here's the factual data of how sales in presidential election years actually goes. So this graph shows the seasonal drop in presidential years from 1963 to 2019. And on the left in the gray bar are the non-election years from the months of October to November, and the sales drop is about 10%. And on the right, that shows in presidential election years, the drop is about 15%. And what we typically find is people say, hey, you know what, we're going to pause, we're going to see how things turns out. It usually doesn't mean that people don't want to buy or sell. It means they just want to take it all in and take a step back. So that's a really good graph to see because typically in the month of October and November, especially towards the end of October, beginning of November, you are seeing people taking their homes off the market or waiting till afterwards anyways because you're getting close to Thanksgiving and the holidays. All right, here's another one. Did you know that home sales actually went up the year after an election in 9 of the past 11 elections? So take the year of the election and then take the year after the election, 9 of the past 11 elections, you will actually see that the home sales have increased. So the only two that didn't were 1980 and 1988. Even after 2008, in the huge financial crisis that we found ourselves in, home sales increased in 2009. So something that's really important to keep in mind is as an election year doesn't alter the price trend that is actually happening in the market, right? So if you have high interest rates or you have really low inventory, that has nothing to do with the election itself. All right, let me show you this graphic. Did you know that home prices went up in 7 of the past 8 election cycles in existing home sales the year after the election? So typically, home prices go up the year after an election. So the only year it did not go up was 2008. Again, that was during the financial crisis. Ollie Wolf goes on to say that in December, following an election and in the following year, the sales that are actually lost in November are recovered. Now, it isn't the fact that consumers say, you know what, I'm nervous and I never want to buy or sell. They are saying, I'm nervous, let's just wait how things play out. So let's take a look at mortgage rates. Now, this is a look at mortgage rates from July to November of election years, all the way back to 1980. And the mortgage rates have actually decreased in 8 of the past 11 election cycles. So this is where you might find where the conspiracy theories actually come out, right? And I don't think there's an actual conspiracy here or a correlation between the two, but there's definitely consistently a trend. And we are definitely in an environment right now where the rates are trending downwards as a result of inflation starting to cool. Bankrate said this: for most Americans, election results will have very little direct effect on their income and therefore should not significantly impact their decision to buy or sell a home. By and large, it will not have a tremendous effect on the housing market. Let me sum it up with a great analogy of how the real estate market is closer to the Apple Store than McDonald's. So, if there's a huge storm and everybody has to stay home for a few days, when the storm is over, McDonald's doesn't get to make up that business that they lost. The Apple Store does. If you're going to buy an iPad or a MacBook or an iPhone at the Apple Store, you might wait a few days, a week, or a month, but at the end of the day, you're still going to make that purchase. During the storm, you will have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at home, right? And so that's business that McDonald's doesn't get back. And it's the same thing for real estate. That's how we operate. Maybe some people wait till the end of the year, maybe the beginning of the year, maybe even next spring. And they say to themselves, I want to see how all of this pans out, all of the emotions of the election, but it doesn't alter their decision and desire of why they need to buy or sell a home. It doesn't change their reasons to actually buy, sell, or invest in real estate. So I think that kind of gives you a really good idea of how the presidential election cycle actually affects the real estate market. Kind of gives you a really deep dive there. Any questions about this? Let me know in the comments below. Love to hear what your thoughts might be when it comes to presidential election cycles affecting the actual real estate market. If you have any other real estate questions, feel free to shoot us a DM, put down a comment below, or reach out to us directly. I'm Scott Himelstein with the Scott Himelstein Group, your Los Angeles realtor. I hope you enjoyed this video.